One day, my fiance said something was bothering her. My fingers are too long and slender. They made her feel like the Grim Reaper touches her at night. So I took a knife and chopped them one by one to be half as long. The bone showed a lot of resistance, but I got through it after a few strong chops. My love sat with me the whole time, sharing my pain and telling me how much she appreciates what I do for her. And we were happy. As I pet her with my stumps, she looks at me and says that my eyes are asymmetrical and it bothers her because it makes me look judgmental. So I took out a spoon and dug out my smaller eye, leaving a dangling eyeball. Then I cut it with scissors. That was the most painful part, but I don't want my love to feel judged. My fiance cleaned up the mess and afterwards came to hug me and comfort me, and we were happy. A few days later, she said that my accent bothers her. It's too foreigner for her taste. So I took out the scissors again and I cut it so my speech wouldn't bother her ever again. It took me 2 tries to cut it completely, but it was worth the pain, and we were happy. I came home from work. Everyone is worried, but they just don't understand. I found a letter on her door. I'm confused. You're not the man you used to be. I'm not sure I love the new you. I don't know if I'll come back. Wherever she is, she must be happy. I'm trembling with excitement, waiting for Thomas to come home from his business trip. It's taken me days to prepare, but I know he'll love the surprise. There's wine chilling on the counter. I changed the sheets on the bed. They were so dirty. I brought a special red silk teddy, a cheap internet sale one that barely covers my skin. My skin, it doesn't look as good as I want it to lately. It's gotten saggier and a little dull, but I know Thomas will make me feel sexy. He's kissed it and touched it enough times. One of my favorite things is watching him kiss the little butterfly tattoo on my hip. Adrenaline surges through me when I hear the key in the lock. Lee, honey, oh wow. His words trail off when I assume he sees the wine and the candles. His tone shifting, his footsteps coming closer to the bedroom. God, I've missed you. The doors open and we finally make eye contact. I flutter my eyelashes, waiting for my man to join me. He doesn't though. He lets out an ear-splitting scream, and he doesn't stop. The noise makes me frightened. I thought he would like this. Does he think I'm ugly? Does he like the way I got ready for Valentine's Day? He's still screaming. Something about where is Lee, and what did I do to her? I try to explain. I'm telling him I am Lee. I even have the butterfly tattoo, see? But you know what this asshole does? He calls me a crazy bitch, asks where his wife is, and says he's calling the police. I get off the bed and grab my hunting knife. I'm pissed. He never fucking appreciates anything I do. Fucking men, they're all the same. If you must know, the rotting sack of meat the skin comes from is downstairs. I'm a nice guy. I take care of her when she's had one too many drinks. I'm a nice guy. I love her unconditionally, even if she doesn't love me. I'm a nice guy. She said she wanted to be more independent, so I cut the brakes on her parents' car. I'm a nice guy. I let her cry on my shoulder during the funeral. I'm a nice guy. There's a lot of guys out there that only want to get in her pants. So at parties, I give those guys just a bit too much heroin. I'm a nice guy. I tracked down her ex who cheated on her. I fed his genitals to pigs at a local farm. The rest of him I tossed in a meat grinder at the slaughterhouse. I'm a nice guy. I know her so well. All her favorite music, interests, hobbies, and cute things she said 4 years ago. Facebook is useful. I'm a nice guy. I stay perched every night on her fire escape so I can watch over her while she sleeps. I'm a nice guy. I set her apartment on fire while she was showering so I could save her while I was just in the neighborhood. I'm a nice guy. I let her stay at my place. I have her complete trust. I'm a nice guy. I chained her inside my closet while she was sleeping. There's no place safer for her in this world. I'm a nice guy. I love her, even when she calls me a crazy monster. I'm a nice guy. You believe me, right? The sun is up and peeking through the trees in my garden as I sit and sip my coffee, enjoying the calm and stillness of the early morning. This has always been my favorite part of the day, and I stretch contentedly, the pleasant arch of my body reminding me of the delights of last night. I wonder if he's awake yet. I can see him in my mind's eye, his beautiful body naked on the rumpled sheets, his hair sticking up everywhere, and his face with that cute little furrow between his eyebrows that only appears when he's dreaming, or worried, or in pain. Whenever I see it, I want to kiss the furrow and make it all better. It's been a long, hard road to where we are today. Both of us made mistakes along the way, and there's been a time when I thought I'd scared him off and ruined things, but now, on this glorious morning, I sit and give thanks that he's finally mine forever. There's no way I'm ever gonna let him go. I love him too much to ever risk losing him. I finished my coffee and put a fresh pot on. The radio is playing love songs all day today. Normally, I'd be feeling bitter and angry, but this morning, every lyric seems to be written for me and my beautiful boy, so I happily sing along as I prepare my tray. It's ready, and it's perfect. Carefully, I carry it upstairs and nudge the bedroom door open with my foot. "Good morning, lover," I say as I see him start to stir. "Did you sleep well?" He opens his eyes and looks at me, his eyes still half filled with dreams. Suddenly, realization draws, and he jolts awake and tries to sit up, only to be stopped by the handcuffs on each wrist and the shackles on his ankles. He tries to shout out, but his voice is all but silenced by the duct tape wound around his face. I laugh. "Silly, did you forget where you were? I thought I made it clear last night that you're not going anywhere." I set the tray down on the bed and watch his beautiful blue eyes darken in fear as he sees the boiling water, hacksaw, bleach, razor blades, and other instruments of torture I have set out beautifully on a white muslin cloth, along with a single red rose for my forever love. An elderly couple lay in the hospital together. They have no children. Creeping up the wrinkled man's neck, along the folds of excess skin, is a faded tattoo of a snake emerging from a skull. On the woman's sagging lower back, the distorted image of a goat skull is pressed against the sterile sheets. They were once wild and passionate lovers. He was in a rock band. She was into coke. He liked to set fires. She manipulated others using sex. He once robbed an old woman. She tried to hit stray cats with her car. Two heinous people in a relationship that rivaled Shakespearean love. They were perfect. Though they were never married, they were inseparable. How could you be angry at someone who hated the same things that you hated? Through the life they built together, the couple was enamored. There could never be a love so fervent, so limitless, so unapologetically fanatical. And their eyes closed at the same time, for the final time. He dreamed of her youthful, leather-clad body. She dreamed of his very loud music. With a final sigh, each dreamed of the other and died in peace. Each had been quite accepting of the fact that if hell existed, they would burn there internally. It was a price for the life that they loved to live. However, they came to learn something about hell. It was different for lovers. They were chained very near to each other, just out of reach. Every day, one of them would be set on fire. The other was given access to a fountain and a thimble. When I first met Anna, I remember her telling me that her and her family had a saying, "You can never have too much meat." Her family is strange. For example, once a month, they wouldn't answer any calls, texts, or even knocks at the door. In fact, they'd be completely absent from their homes on that random date. They also kept cattle, which was weird as I never saw them use said cows for literally anything. So I just always thought it was just a weird thing they said, as some kind of inside joke that I was not privy to. Fast forward a few years, and not only are we married, but we're happily expecting our first. But at this point, I knew why their family had their monthly day of absence. Of course, as pregnant women do, she started having her cravings, which were only made worse by her continuing to have a time of the month, which all leads to now. I was driving home from a food run. It was around 10:30 p.m. In the bed of my F-150 was dinner. Now, I spent about 2 hours procuring it, but I didn't mind. My main priority was to make sure that her and our little one were fed, and I would do anything to help them. Tonight also happened to be one of those nights on top of it all. As I parked in my driveway, I look at the concrete shed. Looks like everything's in order, I thought to myself. I reached into the bed of my truck and pulled out a freshly killed buck. He was a big son of a bitch, so it took some serious effort on my part. So much so that she heard me from all the way in the shed, a miniature bomb shelter. I already had the parts we'd use later in a mini cooler, so she could just go to town on this thing. As I opened the door and turned on the light, she's startled by my presence, growling at me. However, she quickly realized that it's just her beloved husband, and just starts loving on me in all that sort of puppy way. Even as a werewolf, she was so sweet and gentle. I placed the deer right next to her, wished her a good dinner, gave her a goodnight kiss, and went to bed. I don't care what anyone else says. I know that Anna's unusual, but that doesn't make her less amazing to me, and there's no one I would rather start a family with. I love her, no matter what. What is love? People will tell you different things. For instance, a poet may weave a tale of wonder with beautiful words that quicken the heart and put butterflies in the stomach. A scientist, on the other hand, might tell you that love is simply a chemical reaction in our bodies, pheromones reacting to the most basic levels to further genetic lines. And an old couple with wrinkles around their eyes may smile at each other knowingly and state that love is a bond forged over time, becoming stronger with each overcome hurdle. Linguists who have the knack for acronyms may joke that love is abbreviated for loss of voluntary emotions. They might be right after all. But me, I know what love really is. It's that little voice in your head that starts out small, but grows over time, singing to you, moving you, swaying you, shouting at you. Love is that angry voice that shatters your peace and tears your mind apart, little by little, when she won't respond to your texts or phone calls or emails, and when you're standing on her porch beating down the door to be let in. Love won't let you breathe. It strangles your throat like a too tight collar that you can't loosen. Love is the blurred highway you drive down after you had too much to drink. Love is the blood on your knuckles after breaking open her bathroom window. Love is hearing her wash out the sink while you're standing behind the shower curtains. Love is wondering where the hammer in your hand came from as you smash into her skull over and over. Love is staring into her blank eyes, the red puddle growing around her cracked head. Her plump lips parted, just so in an expression of surprise and fear. No more. It was that moment, as I slowly slumped on the floor, that I realized that love is the relief of knowing it's finally over. I hummed to myself as I made dinner, danced around the kitchen to some 30s jazz song about falling in love, and managed not to spill the pesto sauce everywhere, while I rolled it up into little pasta bundles to place between the layers of the tender meat. If there was anything I wanted to do today, it was to cater to my husband. He had given me a lot of support over the years, taught me patience, and helped me see my worth. It was more than I think I could ever say I did for him. I placed the plates on a beautiful silver platter his sister had gifted us last Christmas and began the journey upstairs to give him dinner in bed. Once I pushed the door open, I paused, horrified at the sight of my husband flailing about our bed. The sheets around him were crimson, stained, as if in a theme of Valentine's, by the blood that flowed freely from his wrists. I almost tossed the platter down and ran to him. "Now, dear," I whispered as I applied force to his forearm, keeping it in place to string it back up properly to the bedpost. "You can't keep hurting yourself like this." He recoiled in response to my touch, his eyes begging me to let him go. "Baby, please," he whimpered. "Please, I love you. Please don't do this to me. To us." He was choking back his sobs. I bit back a smile. What a sweet sight. Today felt like we had taken a huge step in our relationship. I stroked his hair and sat him up carefully. Okay, love. I'll do just that. Everything is gonna be fine, but you need to eat for me, alright?" I went about picking the platter back up from where I left it. I spooned a little pasta bundle sandwich between 2 thin slices of beef and gently placed it in his mouth. "Good, huh?" He pressed his eyes closed and nodded through mouthfuls, so I gave him a second helping, and then a third, and finally took a bite of my hard work for myself. I frowned, disappointed. "I thought you said she tasted better than I did," I mumbled to myself as I pulled up the nude photographs his coworker had sent him earlier on in the week, along with the incriminating messages. "To be honest, dear," he froze, shock and disgust painting themselves across his features. I leaned in to lick the stream of pesto that trailed off the corner of his lip. "I think I might have burnt her this time. What a shame." His face was contorted in pain, and tears began to make their way down the slopes of his cheeks. "Oh, no, don't worry, baby." I wiped them away with my thumb. "There's plenty left for me to try again tomorrow."
"Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Elliot gave the beautiful brunette sitting at the bar a smile and tilted his head. Then she threw her martini all over him. "Creep," she grumbled, and then stood up and stomped away. Such is my life, Elliot thought as he grabbed a napkin to wipe off his face. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a petite blonde approaching him. "Wow, people have no manners these days," she said, and took a seat in the empty chair next to him. "Women like her make it harder on the rest of us to meet somebody." Elliot smiled. Maybe this won't be such a bad night after all. He introduced himself, and she told him her name was Andrea. After a few minutes of conversation, she agreed to let him buy her a drink. Andrea ordered a margarita, and Elliot stuck to his usual Miller Genuine Draft. They talked for hours, ordering several more drinks along the way. Finally, it was apparent this was going to go farther than just friendly conversation and flirting, so they headed to the men's room. Elliot wasted no time and gripped her in his arms. His kiss was slow and gentle as he caressed her, so passionate that she was unaware of anything else as the room spun around her. Then she passed out. He scooped her up and carried her out of the bar. As he walked past the bartender, Elliot gave him a gracious nod. "I guess she's a bit of a lightweight," he said, then walked out. It didn't take long to hail a cab. Elliot checked his watch for the time, and once they were in the cab, he grabbed her purse to look for her ID. He had to move quickly. The cab pulled over on the side street and stopped in front of a black, unmarked van. Elliot got out and paid the driver, then scooped Andrea up in his arms, careful not to jostle her up too much as he loaded her into the back of the van. He would get rid of her purse later. "This one's cute," said a man named Maurice. "She'll go for a high price overseas." "Yeah, she certainly is that." Maurice reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope filled with large bills. "You can count if you want, but it's 20%, just like we agreed." "No need, I trust you," Elliot said, and pocketed the money. The walk back to his apartment was short, and he quickened his pace as the cool February air hit him. He wasn't surprised when he found the brunette woman from the bar earlier that night, sitting on the front step of the building waiting for him. "Same time tomorrow night?" Elliot smiled, nodded, and handed her $500 out of the cash he had. "There's an extra 100 in here due to the holiday. Thanks again, and happy Valentine's Day."
Grandma, tell me about how you and Grandpa met and fell in love. Please?
Irani's daughter, Ariana, crouched on the floor, giggling. All right, let's see. I hardly remember.
Grandma, you remember how handsome Grandpa was that night of the Valentine's dance?
Oh, yes, Aragni continued, smiling. I was watching the dance from a quiet corner, and as soon as I saw him, I wanted him for my own. I shook my hair out, got myself looking presentable, and approached your grandpa. He was enchanted right away. He asked me to marry him that same night, so we married. Your mother was born next year, and then, well...
Go on, Grandma. This is the best part.
Oh, goodness, so bloodthirsty. I ate him, of course. We can't keep our human form forever, you know.
But you loved him, right?
Ariana worried. Of course, dear. I ate his head first. He never knew what hit him. Then I sucked out his blood.
Gracious, it's late. Time to practice. Show me first, Grandma.
Ariana begged.
Like you did that night.
Irani shook, and her bristly hair reshaped into a lovely oval. Honey blonde locks sprouted to replenish bristles. 8 orbs clumped together into 2 sparkly aquamarine eyes, and luscious red lips plumped out from where sharp mandibles had been. Another shake, and her bloated body became willow slender, while 8 legs became 4 shapely human limbs. Now you try. Ariana shook vigorously. Blonde curls sprouted riotously from her head, but her body remained spider-like. Aragni chuckled. You need to keep practicing, little one. You'll never catch a man like that. Now, to bed.
Millie, wake up. Come on, it's your birthday. Today's a very special day. Mom's working so you can spend the whole day with me. Meet me in the living room when you're ready. My sister Elena sings cheerfully at me after shaking my mattress. I get out of bed and stare at the mirror with a disheartening annoyance. My mousy brown hair lays as limp as death, and my eyes are so unremarkable that barely anyone knows what color they are. My spindly frame, flat all over like a boy, leaves a lot to be desired. I'm not the prettiest of girls where I come from, and definitely not as beautiful as Elena. She's 25 and has been perfect since well before I was born. I trudge down the hall and pour myself some cereal into a bowl. Elena's perched on a chair, eyes brimming with excitement. She starts in before I even sit down. Okay, Millie, hear me out. The women in our family have always been a little different. Every Valentine's Day on our 18th birthdays, something called the blooming takes place. It sounds weird, just listen. You were born on February 13th, so there's not much time to teach you everything. Go out tomorrow and find the right man. If you feel one, draw in your spirit near. That's the one you want. What? She continues despite my incredulous expression. Meet him for a date and let him take you home. Make sure he lives alone. There are several ways to find out without being obvious. Let nature take its course and call me the next day. Tell me everything. By this point, she had her hands on my shoulders and was looking into my eyes, so I listened. A tall and handsome man catches my eye the next night. I pretend it's still my birthday. I'm amazed how easy this is. He seems captivated by everything I say. He lives alone and takes me home. Nature takes its course. I wake up the next day sore but happy. He's still laying there peacefully. I snuggle him. He feels like cold marble against my skin. Eyes open, no pulse, like a withered grape left in the hot sun. I called Elena, panicked, and gave her the address. When I opened his door, she's smiling wide, completely calm. Tears are streaming down my face. Elena, help me. What did I do wrong? I did exactly what you told me to do. She gathers me into a hug. You did what you're supposed to do. I look at her, more confused. Millie, go look in the mirror. I go into the bathroom and look at myself. My eyes are blue like the Caribbean water, my hair a flowing mane of chestnut curls, my body curvaceous and beautiful. I understand now. I understand everything, and this is going to be so much fun. Beneath the decorations of pink, red, and white, girls danced with their sweethearts. My sights, however, were set upon she who sat alone at one of the tables, her chocolate brown eyes scanning the crowd. Beneath her thumb and index finger, she twirled a pink rose. Her name was Vanessa, and she was, without a doubt, the prettiest girl in the school. Not just because of her looks, but also because of her sweet, innocent disposition. From the moment I first saw her, I was love-struck, though I could never muster up enough courage to tell her how I felt. At least today, I could leave her a Valentine's Day gift. "Did your date stand you up?" I asked, approaching her. "I guess," she sighed. "I don't even know who it is, only that they left a rose in my locker. It has this card tied to it that says, 'To the prettiest girl in school.'" "Oh, sounds like you got a secret admirer," I teased, nudging her shoulder. She smiled timidly, her cheeks turning red. "Punch?" I offered, holding out one of the 2 cups. "Thank you," she said, taking it. We continued conversing, all the while watching the others dance to the music that played. After about 15 minutes, Vanessa began to grow disoriented. "Hey, are you alright?" I asked, as she slouched over, head in her hands. I'm not sure," she groaned. "I feel lightheaded all of a sudden." "Here," I said, helping her up. "Let's get you outside for some fresh air." Outside the gymnasium, I knelt by Vanessa as she tried to regain her composure. "I think I need to go home now," she managed to say. "I'll call my parents. I can't drive like this." "Well, how about I bring you home?" I suggested. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I don't want to be a burden." "I have nothing better to do," I answered, shrugging. "Well, okay," she mumbled. As I guided her to my car and buckled her into the passenger seat, as I started the car and pulled out of the parking lot, my heart was pounding with excitement. I was looking forward to bringing the prettiest girl in school home, with me anyway. "Thanks again for helping me," she slurred, before her eyes fluttered closed. "Anything for my favorite student," I replied.